All right, perfect. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Get It Done podcast. I'm your host, Jimi Ryan, and today we are just honored to have Chris DeVincentis. Chris is the broker and co-owner of Legendary Real Estate Services in Lake Geneva. Chris, welcome to the Get It Done podcast.
Hey, Jimmy, what's going on? Good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm really excited to get into this. We've had a lot of, off camera talk just about podcasting, and, I'm really looking forward to this. Is there anything that you would add, Chris, to my just very brief overview, co-owner, Legendary Real Estate Services? What would you add to that in any way?
I think just committed real estate professional, long time career professional. Been doing this since 1990 when I got started in the business, and I love the industry. I love the people in the industry, and I love the leadership aspect of the industry. So it's really cool to spend some time with you and talk about this.
Absolutely. So we were talking about this off camera, and I've commented on your YouTube channel, or maybe it was a Facebook video that you did, but basically you called out the name Legendary Real Estate Services. You called it out as like, look, this is not a pound your chest type of company. What does Legendary actually mean?
Well, it's for anybody in the area. I don't think it's a surprise that Lake Geneva and the surrounding area has been rated as one of the go-to vacation spots in the country, and it certainly is for people from the Midwest and Chicago. And it's a legendary area. I mean, the industrialists that came here early, how this place was settled, some of the great books and literature on it. And so when I decided to open my own company for the second time, literally, we'll talk about that, but Legendary was just the name that came to mind, and I just really loved it from the standpoint of solidifying what this community means to the region, and the beauty of it and the enjoyment that people have when they come here, the decompression of leaving the city and coming to this legendary area. So yeah, it's cool.
That's really beautiful. There's a golf course named that's called Legendary, isn't there too?
Well, there's Legends, the Legends. Yeah, there's I would say a group of courses around the country that are called the Legend. Yeah.
And for those that don't know, we have a kind of national, I guess, audience. And Lake Geneva is just a beautiful part of Wisconsin. And there's actually a path that goes all the way around the whole lake. And I didn't know that. And I grew up kind of, I don't know, within an hour of it. I didn't know that until a few years ago. My wife and I celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary, just walking around that area. It really is. It is legendary. I think it's just quite a beautiful area.
Yeah, so you've had a chance to check it out and to walk it now. It's great. We do it almost every weekend. Actually, we take a chunk of it with our dogs and we walk that path. It's wonderful to be able to get it from that perspective.
It really is. I love it. Legendary. It's great. So, all right, I want to jump right into this. So the Get It Done podcast is really all about the come up story. We use Elon Musk as an example. Depending on stocks, he's the richest man in the world. And he has a story, from $1 million to $1 billion, and then, the richest man in the world. That story is great, but I'm most curious about the come up story, the 0 to $1 million story. And where I like to begin, the best place to start, Chris, is where were you born?
Yeah, I was actually not born in Wisconsin. We moved here when I was 5. Well, I was born in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do have a very fond place in my heart for the Rocky Mountains in that area. When I go back there, it feels very much like home, which is interesting.
5? You moved when you were 5 from there?
We moved when I was 5 years old, and my folks had built a modest ranch house, and behind the house was wide open prairie all the way to the foothills. Now it's nothing but rooftops. It's just it's rooftops all the way to the foothills. And I told my dad, I said, how much do you think that land would have cost to buy back then? I don't know, 10 cents an acre? I don't know. What was it? It was back in 1968 that they moved. So, and they moved to southeastern Wisconsin for my dad's work, which was for a big company called Emerson Electric. And he spent his career up here building a company that they had just acquired, from a $19 million company to a $350 million company over the course of his career. So it was a great move for him and a great move for our family. It was still allowed us to be raised in the country, which I look fondly back, like every time I think about how I was raised and what our childhood was like, it was as grand as it could be, with the freedom in the outdoors and hunting and fishing and all the things that we were able to do. So great childhood, great childhood.
That's really cool. I always wonder if my son, who's 3 now, would ever really remember like a walk on a beach or like any of that type of stuff. But you really do, even up to 5 years old, you remember that
I do.
area.
Yeah,
Did
I
you go
remember.
back there a lot, or
Been back there probably about 7 or 8 times. Most recently was 2 years ago for a personal development conference. Um, we stayed in Cherry Creek, and then Colorado Springs was about an hour away. So Cherry Creek being a suburb of Denver, actually. So, but yeah, it's a nice area, man. A lot of outdoor enthusiasts live there, and it's a great way of life.
so cool. So you moved to southeast Wisconsin, Emerson Electric. I'm fairly confident that's a worldwide company, isn't it?
It's a worldwide company, yeah. They own about 20 plus companies, and where he actually worked in Racine was InSinkErator. So that was the growth opportunity that he had in his career, and it worked out wonderful for our family. Really did.
What was his job title? It's not electrician. Yeah, I have to imagine.
No. Well, he came as the controller, and within a couple of years, he became the chief financial officer, and he had multiple opportunities to become the CEO, and he actually turned them down. It was one of those really extraordinary opportunities for an executive at that level to have more opportunity and grow if he wanted to, but he valued family first. And this is a guy that was at the highest level in a high growth company, and he was home at 5:30 every night to have dinner with his family and play catch with football and baseball in the backyard. And they lived on 3 acres, and all the kids came over, and you can barely pronounce our last name is DeVincentis, and everybody called him John D. That's what they called him because they couldn't say it, So it was great to be able to have a father who was so connected and so involved in his kids growing up, and still, putting that as the priority.
Well, what role do you think that plays on you now today? I mean, so many years later, I have to imagine that's really important to you.
Yeah, it's super important, and literally the most important person in my life, my mom and my dad. And my dad was, he's just a very down to earth, very common sense. He came here, his family from Italy. His parents didn't speak English; they spoke Italian, and they immigrated over. So he was very humble. Interesting side note: he grew up in Rochester, New York, and he played college basketball with Hubie Brown and Larry Costello, who went on to coach the Milwaukee Bucks and be in the basketball profession. So he played basketball and baseball with those two. And so when Lou Alcindor came into the league, who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he was Lou Alcindor and joined the Milwaukee Bucks, we were able to sit right behind the coach's seat and be able to hear the conversations and everything that was going on. And I have a quick remembrance of a story of him coming out of the tunnel for a game, putting his hand on my head, kind of palming my head as a 6, 7-year-old, and kind of moving me aside and saying, "Excuse me, young man." And I looked up, and there's 7'2" staring at me, and I'm like, 3'5", whatever I was. I told my dad, "I'm never going to wash my hair. Not going to wash my hair, Dad."
I mean, just towering over you. I'm sure he must have just been like
incredible.
Like,
it was incredible. Yeah, it was a great memory. Really great memory.
That's super incredible, especially being, like second generation immigrant parents. What brought them to I guess they weren't brought to Wisconsin. They were brought to Colorado.
Yeah, well, they were Rochester, New York, and then my dad went into the military, so that was Colorado Springs. And you had asked, a little bit before about, the impact that his responsibility had on my career or my life, and just really taught me priorities. It really taught me priorities. And I started out in the corporate world, and then I was really tested when I got into real estate at what priorities meant. And I think anytime you start a business, when you own the business, your priorities can get out of whack. You can really, I was putting in 14, 16-hour days. And, we still do work a lot like that in our new venture. But these days, I make the time to spend with my parents, who are now 84 and 86 years old. and understand, how difficult and how responsible it was for him to be able to make us a top priority and not necessarily his career, and still have success in his career, So hats off to you, Pops, right?
Yeah, no, that's really great. That's beautiful. I think that as a father myself, I aspire to have my son say that, if he's ever interviewed in a way like that's just like, honestly, that's probably the most biggest compliment you can give a father is that, like, hey, you spent time with me and you were super successful. Like, what a great, legacy to follow and live up to. That's really beautiful. What did your mother do?
She was actually a stay-at-home mom. So he worked and she stayed at home, and money was tight for a lot of years. They bought their first Wisconsin house for $28,000.
Wow. Where was it? Was it in Racine?
Well, no, it's actually in Paris Township in Kenosha County. So Paris Township, just a little bit west of Summers, and 1 mile west of I-94. And it's on 3 acres, about ½ acre of it's wooded, truly out in the country. And they've lived there since '68, and added a garage, added a family room, added a 3-season room, a lot of trees, and they turned it into this beautiful estate. And it was a bare bones 3-bedroom ranch on a pretty undeveloped lot when they moved there, and they had a vision, and they did it. It was great to see it evolve over the years. And you just realize what's possible as a kid. You look at what it started as and what it finished as, and it's just, you see that your parents had a vision too when they were younger.
That's really cool. Well, walk us through growing up. What was did you go to like a racing grade school and high school? What was growing up like?
Yeah, so Paris
It
Township,
seems pretty perfect. I mean, just like I was saying, it seems pretty being perfect.
yeah, I had a pretty trauma-free childhood, to be honest with you, and a lot of people aren't fortunate enough to say that. But Paris Township was rural enough that, and west of I-94, that I actually went to what is now Westosha High School. It used to be Salem Central High School. Went to Paris Consolidated Grade School, Salem Central High School, and then which we had some great years there, and then UW Whitewater. And as I said in my video that you had watched before, UW Whitewater, I changed my major 3 times. Kids go into high school, they don't know what the hell they want. They don't know what they want. They don't,
I don't know. My opinion of college is like, I don't think you should go, but I also didn't. Because if I would have gone, I would have wasted all my money. I would have changed my major 3 times and not finished one of them, and then just got on the later start and something that I ended up doing. What did you actually? What did you go for? Like, what was your path?
Yeah. So here's the guiding force. I got an A in accounting in high school, which is pretty much balancing a checkbook, and learning how to do that, right?
I mean, it's easy enough, but it requires some discipline.
It does. It's a good skill for people to have. A lot of people come out of school and they don't know how to do that.
Right.
But back in the day, that was kind of the guiding force, and I thought, well, I'm good at it, and I like it. So I got into that in college, and I got through the first course, and the second course was cost accounting. And about halfway through that course, and not even halfway, 3 weeks into that course, I said, this is as dry as a bone in the desert. I'm out of here. And so I dropped that course, and I realized I needed to change. Yeah,
I mean, of course it is. But of course it is.
It's rough. Staring at that all day. And then I made a shift to what was called Management Computer Systems, MCS, which UW Whitewater is known for that, and accounting. And that happened to be right at the time that they were changing over data punch cards to an online system. And my first year in that major, we were guinea pigs with the new online system. And that meant that there were bugs every time a program tried to compile. And so you had to do it over and over and over again, and it wasn't your fault. And since everybody had to do it over and over again, you found yourself sitting in front of a terminal at 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's when they weren't being used. And I said, I can't live this way. So
that's so funny. Okay. Yeah, that sounds worse actually than accounting.
It was worse. But the data punch cards, that'll tell you how young I am. People are like, what are those data punch cards, right?
I think that a lot of places have those. My first job, well, second job was at a gas station. I had to punch in. Like I actually did. I punched in. I actually figured out if I waited until it went to 8, like the 8 from 7 to 8, that
Yeah.
would round up to the next 15. So, and actually the owner of the company one time caught me like, hey, what are you doing? I'm waiting for it to come to 8. And I totally just told him that, yeah, that's what I'm doing because I'm trying to get paid a little bit more money. But anyway, so
You were strategic even back then, man. What the heck is that all about, huh?
yeah, I know, right? Like I wonder why that job didn't last. But no, so you're revolutionizing,
Yeah.
checking in and out, but it's terrible. What's next?
So what's next? I decided to get into the business school at Whitewater as a highly acclaimed business school. I was in it in a way with accounting and everything, but I decided to switch my major to management. And in management, I didn't really want general management. I wanted to specialize in something. So I specialized in what's called production operations management, which UW-Whitewater is one of the few universities to have that specific major that is very sought after in industry for manufacturing and service operations. And honestly, while coming out of college, that isn't the role I had. It was manufacturing operations, running a real estate company, and being able to understand service operations and throughput and business flow and systems and processes was everything. So it turned out to be like an incredible background for that when I did open my own business down the road a little bit, and ended up coming out of college and working for what was Allen Bradley in Milwaukee at the time, at the clock tower downtown. And they were bought out by Rockwell when I was there. And I spent 2 years there. They hired all their production management people from UW-Whitewater. And so I worked amongst a bunch of alums, and they were the nicest people, man. They were the nicest people. They really were. There was just great quality individuals that I worked for there. But I just realized that the corporate gig wasn't going to last a long time. And it wasn't challenging because it was repetitive. Same thing every Monday, same thing every Tuesday, same thing every Wednesday.
What was it? Like what did you actually like oversee? How did you actually like did you just make the production and the operations more efficient? Did you oversee it? Were you more in the business or on the business with it?
Yeah, no, deep in the business. I was an analyst, and I had a unique opportunity when I coming out of college to be able to work with the jump up above my supervisor, the senior supervisor, the manager, and I worked directly for the director of operations, which that was a big company, and I was a strategic partner analyst, and they had started these strategic partners with companies from all around the world where they would brand label products from these manufacturing companies from Japan and Finland and all these places. And I would do the production planning for importing those products. And they just kept expanding it and expanding it. And, at the end of the day, what really I think drove me to look in a different direction is I really wanted to have some independence, realizing that I was driving back and forth to Milwaukee. This was not a 9 to 5, it was a 6:30 to 3:30. But there was this big reporting gap between myself and the director, and I was a detail person. He's a big picture person. And it created a lot of stress, coming out of college. That was a pretty stressful position to be in. And real estate just caught my ear. It was the beginning of the era of the no money down real estate courses. And I wasn't completely happy where I was at. So, I happened to one night, just kind of be listening to an infomercial of all things. And buy my first no money down real estate course from a gentleman named Ed Beckley, who subsequently years down the road I met. He was a weird guy, but his course, you know what it did? You'll appreciate this, Jimmy. I listened to his course on tape back and forth to Milwaukee for an entire winter. And by the time spring came, I had programmed myself as a real estate investor. Like I was all in. that's the vision of who I was. And, that might sound to a lot of people who do these kinds of things and are in positions of leadership and really believe in neuroscience and things like that, it makes sense. But when you feed your mind with something as the predominant source of information for a long period of time, like, it really does seep in deep. And I just viewed myself as a real estate investor, and it wasn't magically or what have you, but it was certainly intentional that bought my first house, started buying duplexes in Delavan, flip properties, and that was back in the late 80s, 87, 88, 89. And then ultimately it culminated in 1989, buying a foreclosure that was used to be the old Borg estate from Borg Instruments. They owned it, and it was a foreclosure. It was a 4,000 square foot house on 6.5 acres. And I mentioned that in my video, and I just say, don't ever minimize the power of words and conviction. That house we had drove by numerous times on North Shore Drive by Delavan Lake, and just said, we're going to own that house someday. And then just out of the blue, the real estate broker that I had been working with, he knew the background behind it as a foreclosure, and we were able to structure a deal with a reverse closing where we bought the house and it became his down payment for the entire development that it was part of that had failed. And so we ended up with the house and a beautiful, huge barn on 1.25 acres that ultimately we acquired another 5 acres adjacent. So it ended up, almost 6.5 acres in my dream house at 27 years old,
Brother, that's just so rich. All of that, I really want to dig into a couple little things. Really quick, who's the builder? What subdivision is it that it funded?
Actually, it was a development that a family was developing in the mid 80s, and it was a condo development. Yeah. And so what they were doing is they were taking what was left of this estate, cutting out the house and the barn. They were going to use the barn as a recreation center, bulldoze the house, which was this incredible 4,000 square foot house. And then they were going to build 36 condos around it. Well, they built 8 condos, and the look of them and everything was so ahead of their time, they just didn't sell. They kind of looked really ultra modern and everything. And they're on Stone Lane in Delavan Township now off North Shore Drive. But as it turns out, our helping him gave him the land and the existing 6 of the 8 condos that hadn't been sold, that he could finish those and flip them. And then he was going to develop the land next door, but ultimately sold it to us so that we could kind of insulate the property a little bit better with the 5 acres adjacent. And it was one of those unique circumstances, kind of right place, right time, but, focused on that property and realized when the opportunity came that we need to make it happen. And how do we go about that? And we just became very resourceful through our purchasing of income property and everything. We just, we ended up with it, and
I think it goes back to really, listening to an infomercial at Ed Beckley. I think that's really funny. I think that's amazing, actually. I think that there's a lot of people that do that, but then here's what they don't do. They don't put the tapes in their, in their cassette player. I think that's funny that I'm saying that out loud. They put their tapes in their cassette player and back and forth.
Yeah.
But seriously, and back and forth, I mean, like that, you programmed yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't realize that it's an affirmation. It's like saying it out loud. Like, I am a real estate investor. I am a real estate investor. I'm the best real estate investor. And I love how you're looking at it from the neuroscience point of view, because I know you as really a great leader at a previous company of a lot of different agents. Everybody looks up to you through a lot of these, things that, hey, you got to program yourself. If you're going to be in this situation every single day, are you prepared for it? Like, is this actually you, or are you faking it? What? Speak to that a little bit, because I think that this is a real time in your life when, as you're programming yourself, a lot of people are just starting out themselves.
Yeah.
What were your challenges? Like, what adversity did you face when you were changing yourself?
You mean now or back in the day, back then?
Back then.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. the challenges I faced were, we had very limited resources. We were a young couple in our 20s somethings. And we, were looking to try to buy something no money down or close to no money down, and we're able to find some opportunities. But so you start owning a house plus 2 duplexes, 3 duplexes, 4 duplexes, and you only got a couple grand in the bank if a furnace goes out. you know so you're riding things pretty tight, and you're banking on the will of the man above to look and shine down upon you, because had adversity happened, obviously that could have been very financially difficult. And then we subsequently, through the bank seeing what we did in remodeling in these properties and taking care of them, they allowed us to acquire this larger property, and they allowed us to acquire it because of what we had done to the other properties. They didn't collateralize them. They saw what collateral was there, but they mortgaged this new property, and gave us an additional $15,000 to convert one of the space where it was going to be a recreation area into 2 2-bedroom apartments. And that ultimately became the space that we moved RE/MAX Lakes Area Realtors into, which, jumping ahead a little bit, which I don't want to do that quite yet, but it was taking chances. What I often tell people is, and Tony Robbins says this, and I think it's so apropos, if you want to take the island, you got to burn the boat. And when I got into real estate and started doing those things, we kind of burned the boats. I ended up getting, after acquiring those and then acquiring that property, that's the very next year, in May, I ended up getting listing and selling real estate full time. And actually, the reason I did, the impetus was because we were treated pretty disrespectfully from a real estate agent, a longtime real estate agent, like young punk kids, this and that, and when we started buying property, and I thought, man, there's opportunity there if this is how they treat people in this industry. And so that's what led me to look at it, and just decided to go in it full time, give up the salary, give up the insurance, give up all that stuff, literally with about $5 grand in the bank at the time. And we just acquired this property that probably needed $250,000 worth of work. So like,
So funny. Love it.
And it was one of those things where we kind of had nothing to lose, so we were.
I mean, you're fully leveraged. I mean, it's just like you're putting it all in. I'm all in.
All in. And so I know what that feels like, to be all in on something at 27 years old and starting a completely commission-based business.
And look, I mean, Allen Bradley and Rockwell Automation, those are really good companies to lead.
Yeah.
I memean, those are really good companies. So like you are all in. I mean, it's like you listen to the tapes. I am doing this. It's just like I love how all in that is.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of looking back. It was really just marching forward. For that first year and a half. It's actually a year and a half, and then in November, after about 1 year and 10 months of being in real estate, listing and selling on my own, the broker who helped me acquire income property ended up filing bankruptcy on the corporation, but he needed to sell the franchise. And so he sold half of the grid of the western half of Walworth County to me. And so less than 2 years in real estate, I ended up owning a RE/MAX franchise. And
wow.
I look back and it's crazy and it's wonderful at the same time.
So you knew everything about how to manage real estate agents, and you were pro. You were pro right away, and they all respected you.
I pretty much knew nothing about nothing at the
time. I know. I could only imagine. And I mean, you're 27 too. I mean, that's or 28, 29. That's not that old, and you're probably having people that are like in their 60s.
Yeah. I was with people who were like that, and I'll kind of explain how we were structured and why. But the interesting thing is, Jimmy, is, and you can appreciate this having a team yourself. And by the way, your team is fantastic. I mean, you should know that they're reaching out to me all the time, and I'm dealing a lot more with sellers now than buyers. But those listings will bring buyers. as soon as homes stop selling in a day or a week or, whatever. So
Thanks,
we'll,
thanks for the praise. I appreciate that.
oh
Teamwork.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, I get texts every week from them, and you just don't see that in your industry.
I do. Yeah, I know we do it. It's on purpose, believe me.
It has to be on purpose.
Um,
So
transitioning back, so you got this. So you got the western part of the franchising with the Remax.
Yeah.
You're 10 months in. You don't know what you're doing. You're put in this position. You go for it.
well, and that's it. And the launching pad to that was, in all of this, taking chances with your back against the wall. When I first started in real estate, not knowing really what I was doing, but having a couple of good mentors. Craig Proctor out of Toronto, Canada, and a guy named Marshall Redder out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. These guys were running teams with 9 to 11 assistants doing 500 deals a year. And I did a boot camp with them and put blinders on and just did what they said. And they said, you got to get listings. So within 2 months of being in real estate, I ran an ad looking for somebody who wanted to be an assistant and get paid based on a percentage of what I make. And that was 10% of what I brought in. I was an unproven real estate agent at the time. But what that allowed me to do was leverage expired listings and for sale by owners. And within 90 days, I had 17 listings being in real estate.
Wow.
And that kind of really launched this whole train. Listings were easier to come by. Today, they're much harder to come by just in the business cycle that we're in. But that allowed me to sustain myself for that first year and a half so that I was able to move forward with that Remax when the time came at the end of 1991. And honestly, at that time, working in a multi-agent office with a compilation of agents from different offices who had different ideas and perceptions, the unsettled arguing that was always taking place and everybody having a different opinion, I actually made the conscious decision with my Remax office to build a team, to have my office be a team. And it was us. And we had ultimately built it up to 4 full-time assistants who specialized in different parts of the business: listings and listing servicing, buyers and closing coordination, advertising and media placement, and then we listed and sold. And that was ideal for, at that time, for, we ultimately got to, for about the last 12, 14 years, we were doing 100 to 125 deals a year as a husband and wife team, and having 3 to 4 assistants. And very dominant in the market. We set all kinds of records, broke all kinds of glass ceilings. And then it was interesting. It's almost like the 6-minute mile. We started breaking those glass ceilings, and then everybody started breaking the same glass ceiling, breaking 10 million a year, or breaking 50 to 100 sides a year, and then getting to that, all of a sudden, when people think it's possible, and they do it. So there were some really astonishing things along the way and great lessons to be learned that really sustained me till this day, knowing that I've done that, I've been through that. I know a lot of the pitfalls, but the great part is still learning, because everything changes all the time, like technology and so on. So this is just a great second opportunity to be able to recreate and reinvent.
So you mentioned Craig Proctor and learning that kind of operation type of thing. And I mean, here you went to Whitewater for business management, production, operations. I have to imagine that at the time of this is 1990-ish, right? Yep. I have to imagine at the time running a team was kind of not. I don't know, was that a very common thing? What or was it kind of revolutionary to have that type of an operation with real estate?
Yeah, well, it turns out, and I didn't know it at the time, that Craig Proctor and Marshall Redder were very good friends, and they kind of built their own synergy off each other in this team concept. And yeah, we were a team long before teams were a thing. Now teams are a big thing, like it's a new thing, and it's not a new thing.
Right.
It's building a company, and we did it with employees. I didn't have any buyer agents at the time. We really did it with employees. And what we became known for, because our employees became so good at what they did, and we had systems and processes in place as the 90s progressed with CRMs and being able to track things and so on, is we became known as this high producing boutique operation with an incredible level of service, because the systems that we had really minimized the potential for mistakes, and the repetitive nature of what our staff did and even cross-training them to do work of the others if they were on vacation, it became so regimented that they understood it perfectly. And so it just became the best of all worlds, it really did. And, I have to say that I would do the same thing again, from a standpoint of productivity. But at this time in my life, I'm probably going to really focus on building a more conventional operation because of my past experience for 11 years managing a large brokerage. So I've got that background that I never had before, and coaching and training. And so I really know what that's all about. And, that's not stepping into new territory where otherwise it would be.
So that's beautiful. Walk us through that. So it seems like everything is legit, the most perfect thing in the world. You have like the most perfect team.
Yeah.
Story over. Chris lives happily ever after. Like legit. Like that could be the story. But I know it's not. So what? So
yeah.
How does this end? And I guess before it does, is there any other? You mentioned doing 125 units. Those are great numbers.
Yeah.
Even with four people, I think that those are great numbers now, today.
Yeah. Well, back then that was about 15 to 17 million. Today it would be 30 to 35 million. And doing that year after year after year. You see some people pop in there now and then.
Right.
But the throughput, the consistency of our numbers, we always strive for transaction size. It was never about the dollar volume, because that would take care of itself with our average transaction size.
We call it families served. It's ultimately about how many people that you help. And like, if you just help enough people, like the money is going to come, the dollars are going to come, it all comes with it. So
yeah, family served.
So you're doing these epic numbers, it's record numbers. And I'm going to just say legendary so many times. It's legendary numbers. How does this end?
Well, interestingly enough, it doesn't end completely well. So this is the kind of the part of the story that is pretty humbling, which the downturn came, and the phone's pretty much shut off. That downturn was pretty severe. And at the same time, I ended up going through divorce. And my ex-wife was my business partner at the time. And I ended up closing down the business for a year. Prior to when I saw the market going down, I had actually gotten in the network marketing business with a television infomercial company of all things, and really started building a great income with that. I mean, really the second highest person in the company, building a great income. But the economy was so bad that went out of business. So plan B was out the window. And so plan C was to dive much deeper into internet marketing, which I knew a lot about it. As a real estate company, a lot of people don't know the history of Top Producer, the CRM, but my office was one of few offices in the United States, because we were a beta test site for Top Producer before it rolled out. And then we got to use it as a downloaded program back in the day. And we actually switched when they got so big, their support started, struggling, and we could never get a hold of anybody or what have you. But as a beta test site for that, we were in the CRM business very, very early, and I understood the need for systems and processes. And then, as the downturn progressed and kind of got deeper and deeper, the only listings that were coming on the market were foreclosure listings. And it was back in 2009, I got a call from Steve Beers, a dear friend of mine. And he invited me to join him in managing the largest company in our region, and as a managing broker, and I did. And that for 11 years was a fantastic experience, because I was really able to not only blend my real estate knowledge, but the coaching and nationwide training that I was doing in network marketing, the national training calls, and on stage, in front of 1,000, 2,000 people at our conventions. That led me to really see the value in leadership training, and also bridging the gap between people knowing what to do, but getting them to actually do it and being accountable for it. And that's where kind of that whole train started, of coaching and training real estate agents and enjoying it, and appreciating the differences in people and their abilities, and how to move people forward in what they want to do if they're willing to do the work, so.
What year was it that that you should close shop?
2008. 2008.
Yeah, my goodness. I mean, what a terrible time for so many things. I mean, it was just that's when it was really hitting. Like it started in 2000, end of 2006, 2007, but it was just hitting in 2008.
Yeah, true.
When the only listings were foreclosures, did you ever dive deep into that? I've interviewed Justin Hoffman, and he said he became number one in Wisconsin because he went all in on getting foreclosures. Was that something that, did you jump on that bandwagon too?
No, I really didn't actually. The majority of it was Freddie and Fannie. And the company that I worked at, or that I went to work for, they actually had a Freddie Fannie specialist already on board, who ultimately, that person was doing 250, transactions a year for many years, and was the highest producing agent at that company. There were a lot of short sales going on, things like that. But at that point, I was in management. I was not listing and selling anymore. And so it became about being strategic. And one of the big strategic moves we made at that time was having our agents focus on rentals as well, houses and condos, because people wanted to retain their property because they were underwater with their equity. They couldn't sell or didn't want to sell. But there were a lot of people that just lost their homes that were homeowner quality people. And so with the flood of homes on the market and the flood of, people that lost their homes, it was a very abundant market in the rental market. And corporately, we made that change. And there were a few agents that really took advantage of that and planted a lot of future buyer and seller seeds from tenants who had owned homes at one time. And that's a wonderful pivot. That's a wonderful strategic move for an agent to, because most agents don't want to work rentals. They're like, oh, rentals. But that was strategic, and kudos to them for seeing the opportunity,
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of gives you a different role with coaching people, and you talk about it. I've interviewed actually my coach and mentor, Brian Clute. He talks about coaching as it's therapy to me too. Is that your eyes light up when you talk about coaching in the same way that it does for him? Does it do that for you too? Does it really just keep you sharp, and is it what he would describe as therapy?
Yeah, no, it does. It is. Look, here's the thing. When you're coaching other people, you still need a coach and a mentor. And I'm a junkie for personal development stuff. Always have been, certified in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. My girlfriend's a certified master practitioner in NLP. She's a master degree psychologist major. We're big into it. And trying to better yourself all the time, given what life throws at you, is really important. So when you're with real estate agents, it's very easy to compare yourself to others. It's very easy to get down on yourself. Deals fall apart that you were counting on. There's a lot of things that happen, and there's a lot of ways to view things. So, right, it's not what happens to you, it's kind of what happens through you. It's your perspective of it, and how you define that, and getting people to start to think differently. When the student's ready, the teacher comes, and they'll lock it in, and they'll use it when they need it, if they're truly receptive to changing how they think or how they feel, in their profession and in their life. And you can't help everybody. I always said at the sales meetings that, if I can help one or two people, if this lands on one or two people that are ready, some people roll their eyes. No, I've heard this again. This is the 100th time. And coaching is about repetition. It's because some people just aren't ready to hear the message when the time is, when it's happening. But, for some people, the time is perfect, and they jump on it. They get it. It has impact in the moment of their life. They're ready for it. And that's what's so cool about coaching, is you can really impact people, just enjoy that tremendously.
I really love that. You speak a lot like the CEO of Fairway, Steve Jacobson, that just helped one person. He actually wrote a book where it's emails that he would write every day, and he would get emails back saying, this really helped me in this one particular way. And I've been one of those people. And did you get a lot of that? Did you get a lot of just one-off praise and, hey, this really helped me?
Yeah, no, definitely did. It's interesting because I heard both sides of it. Real estate agents aren't bashful. And I think everybody really appreciated it, but there are some people that don't want to look in the mirror. And, when you talk about certain things and it forces them to look in the mirror, their perspective is that, if like, how about you just talk about real estate coaching and not personal development and not these things? And I'm like, well, real estate's pretty basic. You list property, you sell property, you work with buyers, you work with sellers. Like, it's pretty fundamental. My problem is getting you to do it, and honestly, right? It's the new people are so moldable, but it's the 20, 30, 40-year veterans. They're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not making calls. That's not me. I'm like, okay, then like make space for the one that it is. I mean,
I know, right? It's the worst. It's the worst. I love it when you say it's not the new people. It's the people that have been doing it 20, 30, 40-year veterans. If I had $1 for every time I've heard a real estate agent say, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've never heard of, you have to scrape the paint off a house on a FHA loan, like basic stuff. And you've been doing it for 40 years, type things.
Yeah.
But so speak to that a little bit. Are those the type of people that are already successful and they just have it so good? Or are they the type of people that just never do it and just are always in that, funk, in that mode?
Yeah, they're the ones that been in the business a long time, haven't stayed in touch with their sphere, don't have any systems or processes in place, aren't willing to make outbound calls to get business, may not even have the money for push button Zillow or realtor.com leads, but they're always looking outside of themselves at what's wrong and not inside. That maybe I'll pick up the phone if I had a great script. Maybe if I knew what to say, it would make it easier. And they're never looking at new opportunities. They're always looking and focused on, what the company's not providing for them, or what management's not providing, or what other agents are doing. And, what started happening over time is, you get new people in who are tech savvy. You start getting lead gen online, and pretty soon somebody's past buyer is selling through another agent in the office because they got him as a lead. And then they're mad and they're upset. And it's like, they haven't stayed in touch with them for the 11 years that they've owned that house. But they're not willing to put in the time, do the work. It's more of just let it come to me. Well, in a tough economy and economy cycle, let it come to me is not going to work. I mean, you got to pick up the phone and you got to stay connected with people, visit with people, take opportunities to be consistent, about your relationships. And that's how you build a business, man. Long term, that's how you build a business. And if you're going to refuse to put the fundamentals in place, then you're making a choice. And that choice is you're going to have a business that doesn't grow and it doesn't thrive. And if that's okay, and you want to look out here for all the issues when it's really in here, you don't want to take the action, that's okay. You gotta own it. You gotta own it. Like, don't tell me about that stuff if you're not willing to do the work,
That's just real advice. I really love that. I'm just reflecting on it. It's like, Justin Hoffman talks about it. He's like, these people are information squirrels, where like they just want all this information, but then there's no action. And he's just like, information without action is just a form of entertainment. You're watching TV.
That's perfect.
Why don't you go do something?
That's really,
So that's like the negativity. On a positive note, so anybody that over your 11 years that you coached that are just really awesome, or just like maybe a couple instances of a couple different people, maybe that, really just gone all in, listened to you here or there, and then just really took off?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people build businesses a couple different ways. One is being consistent and staying in touch with people. And the other is just performing at such a high level of service and integrity that people seek them out, or they tell other people about them immediately. You and I know a few agents like that, and their business has exploded. I've seen, those people go from 3 million consistently to 10 to 15 million consistently. And certainly, that happened in non-robust years, not like the last two, but prior to that. But yeah, there's some great success stories. The newer agents embrace it, and when they have success, they're super grateful for it. Some of the seasoned agents who believe in personal development, becoming better people, and building a business, being the CEO of your own business, they too can become good success stories. There's a few of those as well.
Did you name any names?
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think a couple that we're well versed in is Kristen Stahulek.
I love it. It's the first person I thought of when you said that. So I'm
Oh
glad
yeah. Oh, she's bomb.
Love
She's
Chris.
bomb. And after multiple years of coaching them to get an assistant to expand their business, to delegate some of the things that they shouldn't be doing so they can grow and leverage their time and have a little time off. They finally did that a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago.
She's literally in Florida right now, relaxing. And I swear to you, I've told her to do this for, I'm not joking, for like 7 years, get an assistant. And she finally does it. And now she has time to spend time with her daughter who's getting married on literally like in an island in Florida, like a beach island in Florida. It's like the most beautiful thing in the world. That is 100% a success story, because she would always be like high stress, care factor through the roof, but like, and so nice, but like always just doing too much stuff. Anyway, Debbie Cobian, there's some people that were just regimented about their coaching, and they showed up all the time. And when they show up, they typically show up in their work too, and they get great value out of it. And you got to realize sometimes a coaching appointment is about moving people forward, and sometimes a coaching appointment is about listening, because there's some issues that are going on that are stopping them from being that best self, and they open up, and you have to be there for them. But and there's certainly a few more too, but this last year saw tremendous growth for agents everywhere. And of course, with every upside comes a downside, and now everything's been sold, and we're sitting on the record lowest listing inventory ever, and so there's not a lot out there to sell, and it's not coming on the market very fast right now. So the next month or two is going to be a little challenging for real estate agents. Hopefully a lot of sellers try to unlock their equity and move forward with low interest rates and do something different, which we're looking for. But go ahead. I don't know. I think the winners are still going to win in this market, and I think the people that are like, look, you got to stand out. You got to be different. You have to be unique. How are you going to get, how are you going to get listings, and how are you going to get your buyers an accepted offer? That's another thing too. In this market, I want a quick transition and end on just recently, and I honestly wouldn't ask this if I didn't know your whole story. So I have a feeling about how you're going to answer this, but it wasn't very long ago that you worked at this pretty prestigious place, in Lake Geneva. Everybody knows who it is. We don't have to name the name; doesn't matter. And just recently you lost your job. And what I really love about you, Chris, is your video afterwards. That it really is just like, I loved it. It was just like straight from the heart and just really raw and real. Can you just speak to, what happened and how that affected you, and how you,
Sure.
what choices you made afterwards?
Yeah, no, sure. I appreciate that. It was about 2 weeks before most of the lockdowns occurred, where I was working. I was the vice president of operations. We went remote, and really it was a bold move, but it was actually a very good and timely move, because it was, I guess, viewing something serious that really became quite serious, at least from a business standpoint. And as we all know, it's history now. But and so probably about a week or two into that, right about before April 1st, I got notified, got to let you go. And that was after 11 years. And, it was surreal. But I'm sure a lot of families were going through something very similar. In fact, I have to tell you that probably the week prior, I think, was when Compass announced they were laying off 350 people. And that was like, I don't know, 10% of their workforce. So there were big, bold moves being made, which I think just instilled more fear. And, the fear was that the real estate market would come to a screeching halt, and that it could last for months and months and months, unknown. And, in the last downturn of 2008, if you weathered that storm, you realize downturns can get pretty deep and pretty severe. And that company had to make some severe cuts at that time. And this was just making a move that was trying to hold off what potentially could happen. And so I spent that weekend, that was on Friday, I spent that weekend, kind of wrapping my head around it, because I had made some really close relationships at that firm. I mean, just the trust was enormous. I managed all the managers, oversaw all the operations, and brought some people there that were really important to not only the business, but my life. And so getting detached from that so quickly, while in the moment seemed like it would, be kind of a, just a quick or hard stop. It really hasn't been, simply because we stay in touch with each other all the time, and we're, having coffee, having lunch, and so on.
Could you stay in that moment for just a second? So
Yeah.
for me, it feels like your heart was ripped out. And I mean, would that be like what it actually did? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, I know the relationship that you have with the people there. It's deep. It's real. It's not like
Yeah.
it's a big thing. You hang out with these people, not
Yeah.
working, and it's just like, that these are your friends.
Yeah. I think, for me, the most important aspect of it is moving forward is that I stay in touch with these people. When it happened, it was surreal, and you're kind of trying to wrap your head around it. And you're kind of like, okay, what's next? Well, realizing I'm in real estate, I can list and sell, I can go to another company. I had the leaders of Ad Properties calling me, leaders of DApril, leaders of companies from all over the place, and they were calling me. And I just wasn't in a settled place to make a good decision like that, nor did I necessarily know I wanted to jump into another corporate structure. I'm at a place where with my folks, I want to spend more time with them. And I thought, I need to go back to independence again. And so I spent a lot of time focusing on that. I got tremendous amount of calls, emails, texts from people, massive support, massive love. To this day, it still happens. And I still see people out in the field. But I realized a couple of weeks in that I wanted to do my own thing, and I didn't want to do it under anybody else's umbrella. I wanted to open my own company, knowing that it's the person, knowing my digital background now of the experience that I have, doing a lot of internet marketing over the years, and identifying a brand fairly quickly, rekindling all my old connections. I mean, I had 1,300 past customers from back in the day, that bought or sold homes, rekindling those, doing lead gen on the internet on my own. And I just saw tremendous opportunity to execute on everything that I had always coached. And we're doing things now that I never coached on, because until I had to dive deeper into it, I didn't even know existed. And just amazing internet and digital opportunities to be able to, to get clients and customers, and to also solidify those relationships. So now those relationships are, they're deep bonds, they're friendships. In the future, I decide to grow, expand, or what have you. There's some people that I care about very, very deeply that are definitely, we want to work together again at some point in time. And I think what's missing in our industry, and I'll kind of close it with this on my part, is I think what's missing in our industry is there's very, very large brokerages, and they kind of cater to bring everybody on board and see who sticks. And then there's the micro brokerages that are 2 or 3 people, and small teams or what have you. But there's nothing in the middle that's like, a 15 to 25 person team of just dedicated, high integrity, high producing professionals who have each other's back day in and day out. And I learned while I was there that is the missing piece in this industry, because everybody wants to be, grow to that massive scale where they have scale working on their behalf for profitability. And at this point in my life, that's not my goal. My goal is to provide a brand and a company and a reputation that people can live out their career with, that they're incredibly proud and incredibly protected by a family of people that they can trust like their own. That's what's missing. And community is hard to come by in this industry, in big companies. So, that's really what we want to do. That's what we want to bring to the marketplace. And we're on our path to do that.
I really love that. That's just pure fire. What's missing? I agree. It really is. It's that family sense. I believe that I have that for the people that I work for and work with.
Yeah.
And I brag about it all over the place. And it's, I know it's something that's really important to you. Your
Mm-hmm.
eyes, really, they light up when it comes to, working with good, high quality people. I call it, I want to work with happy, helpful people. That's it. That's it. Happy and
Amen,
healthy.
man.
You know,
Yeah.
if we can
Yeah.
have that, uh, that would be beautiful. Okay, so I want to. So there's a few questions. I want to be super respectful of your time. Is there anything you'd want to add to Legendary Real Estate Services as far as you know what you're all about? You know, the type of person that would maybe come and work for you, and the other type of person maybe you would help.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things I would say. Number one, from a client servicing standpoint, I mean, my whole goal was to bring innovation to working with buyers and sellers. And, you know, we've got some of those programs that we put into place just in the short time we've been in business, like our seller service guarantee that you can let us go, fire us at any time. We have a seller's choice commission program where we tailor to what a specific homeowner situation is because they're not all similar. Um, and you know, we've got about 5 or 6 different programs for sellers, and for buyers, you know, same thing. And we're willing to really kind of bend over backwards from a servicing standpoint. But the most important thing I think from clients is the experience. You know, I can let them know what's likely. I can let them know what to expect. I can problem solve potential problems before they occur because I've been through, you know, over 1,000 transactions myself, and I've overseen another 15,000 transactions. So and till this day, I still get phone calls from agents from, you know, around our marketplace that have questions about transactions and how to resolve them and so forth. I'm not their broker, but, you know, I give them the best advice I can.
You're happy and
Um,
helpful.
I'm happy to be helpful. I don't want to see anybody get in trouble. It's a litigious business that we're in. And, you know, I think any good real estate professional who has the experience that I have would or should, you know, be, you know, willing to help somebody out who is willing to see them as a professional that can give advice. So, yeah, I have no issue in doing that whatsoever if it's needed, you know.
I think to add
Yeah,
to it, you have a abundance mentality, Chris, and it's just something that's really if you want to what's missing, it's the leader's ability to create an atmosphere where there's an abundance mentality where it's not just like everybody backstabbing each other, everybody
yeah,
worried about their next paycheck. No,
yeah,
everybody's protected, everybody feels it. I love that.
yeah,
That's fire.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Trust is the most important thing. You know, last year I was the president of our local board. I'm on the Wisconsin Realtor Association board of directors. Um, and you know, just I love the high level, big picture of the industry as well as the boots on the ground level of the industry. You know, both of those are really, really exciting, and actually both integrate themselves very well in being able to give customers a perspective on what the industry is all about, and then also being able to, you know, put content out there, whether it's video, written, or what have you. It gives you a body of knowledge that's far greater than a lot of real estate agents who've never participated, you know, at those levels. So, and again, that's part of what leaders do, you know, and it's super important that if somebody wants to step up, that they serve their industry in leadership roles. I feel, you know,
love
so
it.
yeah,
I love it. I mean, you live it every day. You absolutely exemplify that. All right, I want to be super respectful of your time. So there's a
yeah,
few questions, Chris, that I ask everybody.
yeah.
First one is, do you feel like you ever had a big break?
Do I feel like I've ever had a big break? Um, yeah, you know, honestly, I think at the time, you know, sometimes when you get the big break, you don't know it's a big break until you dive deep into it and you realize that you've been given something very special. And for me, you know, this opportunity to be able to, um, with all my experience, come back and to redo what I had done 30 years ago is incredibly exciting. And it's also very compelling that I coach and train agents, so I better damn well succeed. So,
Well, I mean, it feels like you really do. You brighten up with it. It's like you're reborn. It's like
yeah,
you're just like, I got it. It's new. It's just like the excitement just comes through
yeah.
in your voice and just I really love that. That's a that's a great big break. Was there ever a time, Chris, you felt like giving up?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I would say there was. In fact, I've talked about this sometimes where I remember when I started in real estate, there was a time, you know, even with my successes in 1991 when they had the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, the market shut off for about 6 months. And I remember sitting on the back steps of my house, of this house that needed all this work, you know, in a full commission business, and eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, sitting on that step, and kind of wondering what in the heck I got myself into. And then I specifically remember, you know, my car was sitting right there, sunroof open, beautiful sunny summer day, and I thought, no, this is exactly what I need to be doing. But you have self-doubt. There's no question about it. I think it's really important for people to know they will have self-doubt and to recognize that, and not to beat themselves up about it, but to do what they can to fortify their thinking in the direction that they really want to go, and not to loathe in that. But sure, yeah, I mean, you know, it definitely happens. And you know, when you got it all riding on the line, it can be even more pronounced. But you know, good friends, good family, all help with that too.
I love that. I love that answer.
Yeah.
It's just like your background in neuroscience and everything. I can see you. I can picture you eating their PB&J, looking at it like 10,000 unfinished projects in your house. You know, just like, oh my God. But also, you have to see the vision so clearly that, and no one else can, that you have to just persevere and just do it.
Yeah, yeah, you do, especially in a sales business. I mean, you know, you grind it out until you don't necessarily have to grind it out anymore. And you know, the biggest mistake people make is they become successful and they stop doing what they did to get them there in the first place. And you can't. You know, that's actually when you become more creative, more resourceful, and you decide you want to grow and expand and do things you haven't done before. Because what you did took you there, but you got to do something else if you want to get to the next level. And you know, that I think is the juice in running your own business. You know, it's pushing yourself out of that comfort zone, like we talked about before this podcast, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
If you were to do it all over again, Chris, what would you change?
If I had to do it all over again, what would I change? If we're talking really business, I would have gotten into real estate for sure. I think what I would have done is, I think in 2008, I would have kept Remax Lakes Area Realtors alive. With all the past clients I had, it was just a matter of time before the economy allowed that to start moving forward. You know, we literally, it was the perfect situation, but it also was the perfect storm. And that, and my relationship at the time, there were some hard decisions that had to be made, and big financial decisions that had to be made, and the economy won. And you know, having that brokerage, you know, probably 3 or 4 years out of the decline, you know, we probably would have taken 100 transactions a year, now up to 250 a year. It was just poised to do that, you know, and that's probably the one thing I would say, you know, looking back.
Got it. All right, to set up the final question, Chris, you know, there's someone out there that, you know, maybe is starting over. Maybe they're in the middle of a rebirth. You know, maybe they're getting a call, they're leaving a corporate job, they're considering real estate, you know, they're fully leveraged already. They're already in it. They're fully leveraged. They're, you know, eating their PB&J with their sunroof open on a bright sunny day, you know, thinking about it. What advice would you give to someone looking to get it done?
A couple of things for sure. Number one is to take an inventory of the people that you trust the most, that would give you the most sound advice as to how you can change your situation. You know, people that are entrepreneurial, that you know, that you've worked with, that you need to open up to, and not pretend it's not happening. You know, you can't pretend. You know, I think we live in a pretty pretend world right now between social media and a lot of other things. You got to get real about where your situation is, and let some people who have wisdom be able to step in and you know, give you some guidance and some ideas. Then the other thing is take a personal inventory of what it is you really want to do. You know, if you don't if you're in a sales business, you don't like sales, you don't like calling people, you don't like talking to people, you shouldn't be in sales. You're in the wrong thing. Take a personal inventory of what do you really love to do? Like, what would juice you every single day to be able to wake up and participate in and be a player in and take to higher and higher levels, that would really get you excited and want to wake up, jump out of bed every single morning. Like I jump out of bed every single morning. I have for years and years and years. And the last one is get some discipline. Get some discipline in your morning routine. Eat better. Get some exercise. But spend a good hour and a half every morning, exercise, quiet time, planning, family, whatever it is that is significant and a big rock in your life. Get some discipline around that so that you know that you're working hard for a reason, and that it's not something over here at the end of the day or at the end of the 10 years or whatever your big goal is, that it's something that you can participate in every day that keeps you going, and that you're not having to wait to live it, you're living it, and I just think discipline is a huge part of discipline, and focus is a huge part of being an entrepreneur. And it's that through time blocking is the toughest thing for people to do. They just can't, they struggle with that so immensely. And I get up super early. I go to bed at 9, I wake up at 3, and so I work a couple hours, and then, I'm working out, shower, get in the office, and every single morning, and I live for my mornings. I mean, I love my mornings, so everybody's got to do that, because you got to have that special time for you. Our self-care level as entrepreneurs is pretty pathetic, and because you're pushing so hard, but you got to have a why today, not necessarily 5 or 10 years from now.
It sounds like you subscribe to, actually,
bring it on.
The Miracle Morning.
Miracle Morning. I've got it. Yeah, I do.
I feel like this is like you every day. 3 a.m.
I do. But see, if I need 6 hours. So if I go to bed at 10, I'm up at 4. If I go to bed at 9, I'm up at 3. I've got a little dog that gets me up because she wants to eat. She's my little alarm clock, same time every day. And it's quiet time. There's no text, there's no emails, there's nothing going on other than me and my focus of what I need to do, which is perfect. Got to have time like that.
I really love that. And I love how you describe it. I love my mornings. Like, it's just like, all right. That's beautiful. So I want to thank you, Chris, for joining us today. And if anybody is, interested in, reaching out to Chris, what would be the best places for them to reach out?
There's a couple different ways. I mean, certainly you can find me on Facebook, Chris DeVincentis, Legendary Real Estate Services on Facebook, Instagram, Chris_DeVincentis_realtor, my YouTube channel, the Lake Geneva Real Estate Guide.com. So,
how about Clubhouse? You mentioned that.
Yeah, and on Clubhouse, Chris DeVincentis. Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll include some links in the podcast description. All right. This has been the Get It Done podcast. If you like what you heard today and you want to support the show, tell a friend, write us a 5-star review, hit that subscribe button. All those things help us increase our word and increase the reach. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Once again, I'm Jimi Ryan. This has been the Get It Done podcast. Many more stories on the way.